Stan Davis, and it is January 31st of 2023, and I'm delighted to welcome Stan and Pam Gallery here. They are new to Athens, so I'm welcoming them not only to the museum, but to Athens as well. And we are just delighted to have you all here in our community, and it's been such a pleasure to get to know you both and learn more about your lives. We're interviewing them because they bought the Fisher home, and we were interested in what they're doing to restore it, but they both had some pretty fascinating lives, and I want to ask you all about that first. Stan, I'll pick on you.
Okay.
I am just amazed at everything that you've accomplished in your lifetime. And I was particularly interested in the Carts of Colorado, which I think you founded in 1984.
That's correct, yes.
And it was a unique mobile merchandising platform that spread to many name brands, didn't it? And helped them get their products out there.
It sure did, yes.
So could you tell us just a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, Carts of Colorado is a company that emerged basically from my upbringing as a child. My dad was a taxi driver and a bit of an alcoholic. So what we did is we were always out hawking either hot dogs at the Chicago L or caramel corn. And when we touched the people, we noticed that we were compensated very, very well. We were able to actually talk to the people. We then, later on, when we had paper routes as three siblings, and we would all kind of do things together as a group. I was in the middle of the birth order, if you will. So we had a very heavy snow day one day in Chicago, and we couldn't deliver the newspapers. So we took the newspapers in bulk to church, and we again were handing the newspapers, Chicago Sun-Times and the Tribune, to the people, and we were, they'd give us a quarter for one of them, and they'd say keep the change, and all of a sudden we made more money just in one day than we would almost all year long delivering newspapers. So that changed our lives. So we started going to other, with all of us, we would either two at one church and a couple at the other church. So this is what we did. So in 1980, I was struggling as to what I was going to do with myself. And I said, I'll just get a hot dog cart and kind of figure it out, like this man that I hawked hot dogs for in Chicago. So I was like, he only worked part of the year and drove a really nice Cadillac. It's like, he's making a lot of. So anyway, I bought a hot dog cart from New York for $1,800, and that little hot dog cart we turned into 18 different carts, if you will, around the city of Denver. So, and then we thought about using the day part in the morning. So we went from hot dog carts selling hot dogs on the street corners to coffee and donuts in the morning. We picked them up and then put hot dog carts down. And that turned into a business just nearing around $6 million a year. We also did on the weekends at membership warehouses. Originally a Pace membership warehouse was prior to the ones that we have today. The furniture retailer locations on the weekends. So what we did is, the concept is put your merchandise where your market is. So you took the product to the people, just like I did as a child, grab it from the hot dog cart and take it to where the people are doing their transfers from Chicago to Evanston at the elevator. So the concept the articles were syndicated across the country about how successful these carts were doing. And restaurants were screaming unfair competition. And the more these articles were syndicated through publishing, we all of a sudden started getting Disney and Coca-Cola. So the opening of the Statue of Liberty, when they reopened that, they acquired carts from us, and the explosion of accommodations. They were so thrilled with it. Disney was thrilled for it. And then people said, your carts are great, but what's really in your head? How do you know these types of things? And then we were selling to Pizza Hut, Taco Bell, Kentucky Fried Chicken, just anybody and everybody, as we were taking their brands, miniaturizing them, if you will, and taking it from Main Street USA to where people traveled, educated, recreated, and all of the different types of things that people were doing in the locations other than Main Street USA for brands. So we mobilized the brands to Main Street, from Main Street to these alternate locations. So we created the industry called mobile merchandising. PepsiCo acquired our company, and from there it changed our life, and we went from, all of a sudden we had this chunk of income and cash, if you will, had a lot of friends all of a sudden, you know.
Yeah.
That's how I then ended up into the hotel business, oil and gas business, real estate, and just a whole plethora of other things.
Well, I would have to read all the things you were into. I can't remember because I was looking through banking, hotels, gas, and oil, real estate. Does that cover the gamut, or?
No, yeah, well, we had space satellites, thin film photovoltaics, I mean, cigars, the little ball washers at the tee box where you put your golf ball in and wash it, that type of thing. We acquired that company. And little golf carts that drive around the golf courses. And so what we did is we put our merchandising food equipment there on the back of the golf carts so that when people, you know, the little, the young men and ladies that drive the little carts around while you're playing golf, that's our product. So it's a whole story of things that emerged, but most importantly, it's just, I guess it would really come down, people are my drug of choice, and I get addicted to people that are really energetic and have a lot of ideas. So as Pam says, I talk like a fire hose.
Well, no, but your whole history is just fascinating to me. I wish we had time to cover every bit of it today, but maybe that'll be for a second interview sometime. How's that?
You bet.
And Pam, I know you were with 4-H for 28 years,
That's
I believe,
correct.
and then you went to work for Stan?
Well, they were kind of jointly done
Oh, was
in parallel.
okay.
Yep.
All right. Evidently, he's a pretty good boss because y'all are still together. But I think the thing that fascinated me the most when I met you was the fact that you train show dogs, and you have a Cocker Spaniel national champion.
We do.
Could you tell me a little bit about how you got into that?
Sure. I actually started with the Australian Shepherd breed. And I bought a little dog, a puppy, at the National Western Stock Show in Denver. And he was a little unknown, and I trained him to work cattle, and I trained him in obedience, and I trained him for shows. And he, as a little no-name, became a champion for Australian Shepherds. And I had a lot of mentors that helped me along. They put me in a group where we developed the Australian Shepherd breed standard. So I was part of the committee that helped found that. And then my kids grew up with dogs, obviously. So I trained my kids to train dogs. And one of my kids ended up working for a groomer. And the groomer raised Cocker Spaniels. And she sent her home one day with a black Cocker Spaniel.
Oh.
So that's how that started. And so I liked the size, I liked the personality, and so I filtered out of Australian Shepherds into Cocker Spaniels. I had a great mentor for those. And once one kid became addicted to a Cocker, then we ended up with more Cockers. And finally, in about, I waited a long time for the dog we have. In 2014, he was born. And we brought him in from California. And my oldest daughter shows, she's our handler. And we took this dog on a nationwide campaign because there aren't enough party color Cocker Spaniels in Colorado to earn points. So we took him basically from coast to coast and put 30,000 miles on our van and campaigned this dog for 3 years. He's the #1 party Cocker Spaniel for owner handle, has more points than any Cocker Spaniel. Anyway, he's just been a delight, but he got us into more dogs. And so we have a Cocker Spaniel family now.
Yeah, basically 7 of them between 5 of ours, and then 2 in our daughter's house. So
Well, they'll steal your hearts. I had Cockers growing up and just dearly love that brand, and they really are. They're very special.
They are.
Now, you said party.
Party is the variety. So ours are black, white, and tan, but they also come in buff,
Yes.
and they also come in black.
and when Pam acquires a dog, what she does is she does a family tree. How many generations do you go back when you map it?
I think we have 6 7 on Dash, but we have more on Flirt.
Yeah. So what we went to Calvary Crane and acquired one of the dogs here 5 years ago, was it maybe?
We got her in 17.
So Pam will map out on a wall all of the generations going back and making sure that we don't, the genetically looking for any PRA, which is for the eyes or
Right.
dysplasia, any of the hip issues or anything. So it's really quite impressive, the research is, and, the history of what's going on. So, without that type of thing, we wouldn't have purebreds, people doing this. It's incredible to watch her do that.
They call it preservation breeding. So there's a lot of research to it.
Just fascinating, me too. You all have had unusual careers, that's for sure.
Yes.
And, I'm looking forward to meeting Dash. I've seen his pictures, and he is absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
Absolutely beautiful in the pictures I saw of him, and I'm looking forward to it. But, okay, we'll talk about the Fisher House now. As I grew up, it was known as the Fisher Mansion here in Athens. So a lot of us old school folks still call it that. But it was built in 1939, correct?
38.
38. Okay. And it's just such a fascinating home to me. Would you tell us what led you to this house? To buy it? How did you find it? And tell us a little bit
I'll
about
start with how I
hunt.
found it.
Okay.
Yeah,
'cause
Pam
I
actually found it.
Okay.
Back to dogs again. A dog friend of mine relocated from California to Tennessee. I wasn't really sure where, but she had a fantastic property that I saw on Facebook. And she told me the general area, and so I just started doing a Zillow search in the area. Not weekly even, just every so often Zillow would send me something new in the area. And so I expanded my area, and then one night this house came up. And I was like, this looks like we live in England, like the Cotswolds. And I sent it to Stan and I said, the dogs and I will meet you in Tennessee. And Stan looked at it and he said, how did you ever find this? And it was just looking through home after home after home.
Right.
And so then I bounced it over to Stan because he's the brains of the operation. And he looked at it and we talked about it. And I think he even launched a call to the realtor like in February of last year. And then we set it on the back burner. We were remodeling a hotel. We were remodeling the house we live in now. And we just had a lot on our plate. But every so often I would get a notification that that house was still for sale. And I would shoot it off to Stan in an email or a text. And then one day in May, it had a price reduction that we thought was substantial. I thought was substantial. I sent it to Stan and I said, either we look at it now or we never look at it. And so he called to find out if it was being shown. And we bought a plane ticket for like 2 days later. And we flew out one weekend in May. And Stan bought it the next weekend in May, I think. Tail end of May. First part of June, we put a contract on it.
And there's an interesting story in between those, from the time that Pam originally found it until the time that we actually made a decision to come down to see it. My granddaughters were at home one day with us, and they were throwing rocks at the flag saying, I hate America. So I told Pam, something in our life has to change, So as I was very occupied with the disposition and the sale of the Hilton that we developed at Denver Airport, after we got that done in December, things were just kind of dynamically rolling, and then I was doing research and I contacted the state of Tennessee and looking at the history, because when I go into something, I'm trying to figure out how to get out of it. What am I going to do with this? And we're in the wealth transfer part of our life here, so as we're only trustees of things. So I contacted the Tennessee Historical Society at the main state level. And there was Mr. Alan Carter in Athens, and I bring up old Alan Carter because I look at it and I just said, when I started looking at this, is like having when I grew up and later from Chicago, we moved to Evanston, Illinois, and a lot of homes were like this in Evanston, on the university and things. So I was like, this is kind of beyond a normal person's scope of investment, because having been in a large home growing up as a child, later on in the years, seeing this home that my dad lived in is just, it became a money pit, It's like, well, now we know what we are living out here. So anyway, getting a hold of Mr. Alan Carter, we're just like, what do we do with this when we're done with our natural lives? Who do we, place it with? Because we're just trustees. So and as soon as we saw it, when we drove up to it, it's like, okay, we'll take it. And then from there, we took on a big job to take care of we call it the Grand Lady. So, and when people say it's a mansion, I mean, it's smaller than our home in Denver. It's 75, so our home in Denver is 8,000. And, we look at that and it's okay, that's pretty big. But the rooms are so intimate in this property. I mean, they're Pam says this, when she walks in, it feels like home. It's not, there's one big room.
The first night we spent there, it all felt like home.
There's one great room, very large room, and it has a very large feeling and presence. It's a beautiful room, but so the word manor fits it well. So, but it's been an exceptional experience from day one.
Well, we're just so thankful to have someone love and care for that home here in this community.
Mm-hmm.
And let's start with what you're doing to the house. What, as far as what you're having to do to restore it, and
Sure.
Any plans you've got?
Well, kind of from tip to toe, it's we're taking care of it. So is the slate roof. Slate roofs. Technically, this roof is a hard slate roof, so it's a 300-year life to it. And there's some maintenance that we have to do on the roof. We just currently are in the process of replacing all of the copper gutters. So all of those were done half of them were done this week. And downspouts, and all of the downspouts are hard plumb, so we're having to root all of these types of things out. So. Then from that, Pam is painting the entire home on the inside, and there's cracks in the walls, and we're some of these are just fine cracks and other big cracks. But then we looked at it and said, again, still on the outside, we had the patio walls. They were knee walls about 3 feet tall. And over the years, they'd been compromised from freeze thaw because of lack of the leaves in this community. I've never seen so many leaves. They clog the drains are froze over, and then the walls freeze. And so we had to take the walls all the way down to build a new foundation and build them all back up with the original stone, putting it back in the same place. And now we have a nice, full perimeter drain. And then even in the gutters, we have a full permanent leaf gutter solution so that the leaves just don't fill things up. Because when we took the downspouts off, you couldn't even
hardly
hold them.
lift them.
You couldn't hold them because they were
Yeah.
just packed.
Packed with leaves.
And well, I understand you have, fine, you do that every year, but we did it 4 times this year. And I'm going, when are they going to stop? So anyway, that's why we had a permanent solution. So beyond that, then going from the outside of the house, we're looking at, we have tuck pointing to do. We have, there's wires that are just everywhere throughout the external part of the home as the different technologies approached, whether it's antennas, cables, telephones, they're just stapled on the outside of the house, and I'm going, oh my gosh, those, they've all been coming off. The great news is technology now is all wireless, so we have a nice wireless system in the home, and it's just, everything we're looking at doing, even the outside, we're putting a new water system throughout the property. Granted, Pam has heard before that there's
We heard that it had the most beautiful gardens in Tennessee, but you wouldn't know that walking up there now. Everything is dead or dying. It doesn't seem to have irrigation, and I think it needs irrigation. So I've kind of got my work cut out for me trying to regenerate the gardens that were there. But it does need some help. Stan had the trees done by a local tree contractor,
Out of Knoxville.
thinned and the brush cleaned up a little bit. It was just way overgrown.
So one of the gentlemen came here from Knoxville, the Horticultural Society.
Yes.
Board. He was on the board there. Cortese tree.
Cortese tree.
And we
from
had
Knoxville.
the woolly algid,
A beetle
of
on
some
the
kind on the
hemlock
tree.
firs that he medicated for us so that we don't lose those, because there's
we had
like
about
130 of them up there, and most of them had a problem, so we had to have those treated early on.
Yeah, and
last
some of them
year.
were just completely dead that were the gentleman 70 to 80 feet tall were completely dead, just timber. So we had to take, I don't know, 42 trees out, if you will. But the key is again, by even contacting, horticulturists, we're bringing the people in to figure out what needs to be done to restore the grounds. Right. So, and now Pam is, hopefully working with the garden people to figure out how to restore the gardens. But to do that, I have to bring a distribution of water system. We have lovely AUB. It's like, they're great, by the way. I am really impressed. Okay. We live, part of the time in Denver, Colorado still, and part of the time here. And AUB puts a little note on our door, and we have people there all the time doing work. So note on the door says, we have 30 or 50,000 gallons of water used. And it's like, we're not using water, so we have pipe breaks in the ground outside, right? And it was one after another, after another, after another.
We had 3 in a row.
Goodness.
So one separate and then 3 in a row.
Because there's these large hydrants that apparently were for the beautiful gardens throughout the property, because there's gardens with little rock stone walls that need to be rebuilt. And we looked at some of the pictures that we received from the
previous sale.
But also from
McClung?
from McClung collection,
uh-huh.
right? The architects, all of the original architectural drawings we received, as well as when the home was remodeled, there had been some black and white photographs taken. So we saw some of the gardens there, and throughout that, there was these hydrants that were used, but there's every time I dig up a hydrant, the pipes are just melted. So we're going to be establishing, a new water distribution system throughout the property. There's 7 acres, so there's a lot to do. And the previous owner, to compliment Mr. Mark Denton that owned the property to us, when he put in the security gates at the front, he did underground bore drilling, so not to disturb any of the landscaping. So we're going to be doing things like that as well, because we just can't replace some of the beauty that is there. So we have to work around it. And it might have to go 30 yards out of the way to bring the water pipe around, but that's okay. And so these are just some of the things that we're doing. And we're only talking about now the outside. We're not even talking about the inside.
Well, and we have pool reconstruction to do.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to ask you about the pool.
Yeah.
We did start on that. We have to redo the pump system. We have to redo the concrete. We have to redo the
pool cover.
The pool cover and the tiling on the side.
So we're putting the automatic pool cover because if you have it open, which we did have it open for just a week.
We had it open to see it. Yeah.
In June, and you get these windstorms, and then all of a sudden the pool's completely filled, and it's like, oh. So anyway, we're putting an automatic cover that will allow that. So to do that, the pool wouldn't easily accommodate that. So they're just doing some saw cuts to allow those types of things to go in. But
it does have a cover. It's just that the normal person can't get it on and off because it's so cumbersome.
And then we'll put a vinyl liner inside of the pool because it was originally a concrete pool, and we just, over the time, it might have been compromised. So we had some pool people come in and they looked at it. So we just think a vinyl liner is going to be better, but it'll still be the exact same size and that type of thing. So.
Well, you all haven't rested a moment, have you, since you built that house?
Today, spending the day with you is our rest.
And I just can't imagine, I was thinking about what had to be done to the house, but the grounds, my goodness, that's been quite a job, hasn't it?
Right. Some of our local friends here call and say, would you like to go to dinner? And I'm like, well, it's like I didn't even see the text because it's like we start in the morning. It's like a half a day, which 12 hours, It doesn't matter 4 and 4, but it's a 12-hour a day oversight, almost every day, 6 days a week at least. And then the 7th, we're planning what has to happen and try to figure out, and then this thing called the rain. I have never seen so much rain as well. It's like
it's not a bad rain though. It's just like a drizzle rain. It's not downpour.
Born in Chicago and moved to Colorado in '69, and from there 300 days of sunshine, and then here this entire week is going to be rain. It's like whoa.
It is. And you were talking about the leaves and the trees. As you know, I'm just a couple of streets over from you, and I told my daughter the other day I had to have tree work done, and I had all these big trucks in the driveway, lined up, and I sent her a picture, and I said, I'm playing the neighborhood song this morning, Chainsaw Melody.
There probably isn't
Because you
2
can
days
hear them all the time up there.
That's what I was going to say. 2 days don't go by that you don't hear a
Chainsaws.
chainsaw.
One of our favorite things to do is leaf peeping. We would fly from Denver and go out the East Coast all the time, but now we're right here,
And the colors were beautiful.
They were.
Absolutely
So
beautiful.
while we're enjoying it, it's like, I can't wait for spring for the magnolia trees. The magnolia trees on this property, it's just like, wow.
Oh.
Man, do they rain stuff. So we're learning, it's like.
It's a whole different environment.
The restaurants around here could probably attest to what we look like when we go out to eat at night, because we usually go right after a shower, so we're wet and we look haggard, I'm sure, but
15
we're
minutes before
starving.
they close. It's like, are you still open?
That's how we go out.
Well, I admire your work ethic, because you all have not stopped, I don't think, since you bought that house, and have another one to keep up. And don't you have a place in Italy as well?
Yeah, we do have a couple homes there. We have a business. We do tours, luxury tours, and Ferraris and Vespa scooters. So we're like, I think we need to get rid of 2 of our 4 homes. So we're
Oh my goodness.
it's like, yeah. So
Well, COVID really hurt us going to Italy, because Italy just shut down.
Right.
And we couldn't even get there, so.
But originally, as starting a business in Italy, you'd either had to provide an economic cash bond or pledge property. So that's how I ended up with homes in Italy. So that has all changed now, where you don't have to do that. So, but we've had our homes in the Chianti area of Tuscany. So it's
Beautiful area.
it's stunning. Yes.
Absolutely beautiful area.
Yes.
Well, you live in some really beautiful areas of our world with the Tuscany area, and I am partial to East Tennessee, because our 4 seasons, you get all of them, and the spring and fall especially are gorgeous, and I know Colorado is. So sounds like you've got the best of all situations there.
It's not bad.
And-
We love Athens, though. I have to compliment, everybody here has been so sweet to us.
Good.
And you don't find that in Colorado anymore. Used to, but
And when our family members, even another gentleman, so we had some of our local contractors that were in Denver fly out to help work on the property here. And we make sure we point out to the Athens signs that the friendliest city. And we find that to be without a doubt. From the day one, we walked into
we've
the
met the
courthouse.
nicest people.
We were doing what was we doing at the courthouse? And I ran into Keith, the gentleman on real estate.
Keith Price.
Keith, yes. And
I don't remember,
he
but you
guided us
asked
to
him.
somewhere, I don't know what I was doing. It's just right on down the hall here, and he asked me, you're new to the area, and we had a great conversation with him, and then all of a sudden, the mayor came over, and then
Mark Cochran came over.
was in the hallway, and then boom, 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 it's just like,
And then Joy came over, and
it was,
it was like everybody knew us.
it was just, and then from there, you got introduced to Sheriff Joe. It was an amazing network, instant network. And it's just, all you can say is wow, So, and Pam's like, we're in Denver too long. She's like, time to get back to Athens. So.
Well, it is. It's just such a wonderful community, and I've born and raised here, and I can speak highly of the people and the camaraderie and the sense of caring about others. I think that's something that has really impressed me. The older I've gotten is the people, how much they care. And because if somebody finds out you're not feeling well, or you've had some surgery or something, I can guarantee you there'll be food at your door and people offering to help.
Well, okay, so our tree contractor here, Tony Norris here, he comes over, he has this barbecue truck that he puts on the back of his, three different types. He has Japanese cooking, and we were all there working the other day doing the gutters and over thing. He wanted to go to lunch. I said, Tony, I can't, we're overseeing all of these things. He comes over and makes lunch for all of the contractors and painters. And it's like,
It's amazing.
how does that happen? I mean, these things, it's like, well, I know you're busy, and it's like, okay, I'll bring it over. And then the week before that, he brought over and made it in the kitchen. What did he do?
Hmm. He did. He made dinner. I don't remember even what we had, but he came over and made dinner in the kitchen.
Yeah,
and
because
then
we were tied up, and he's like, don't you have time for dinner? And it's like, we're really, we'd love to.
one Sunday night, he said, I know you've been working, I'm bringing something over, and he brought over a chicken dinner for us, and he's
But he
gone
has this
above and
round thing
beyond.
where he hibachi, just like, the Benihana, what do they call it? The hibachi food.
Uh-huh,
He sits there
yes.
and chops it, so we got him a hibachi, Benihana uniform. So, and he
can dress the part now.
He shows his knife and his fork, and he took a beautiful picture of it and sent it to us. But that's one of the I like to do that. I do that at Benihana. They have the ability where you can go train as a chef and then make it for your family. So my family goes there, and I cook at Benihana, so now he and I have this little Benihana love.
Oh, gosh. Well, I'm just glad that it's been such a good experience for you all, and because I know there's a tremendous amount of work that's had to be done, and still, I'm sure you're still got projects to go, and but I think it's amazing what you've done and accomplished, not being here all the time, because you're in Colorado. I think you stay there a month, usually about a month, and then here about a month. So it's just been I'm just glad we have you, and I thank you very, very much
Sure.
for being here and the investment you're making into our community.
Well, Pam has a question about if anybody knows
Sure,
anything
let's
about the.
talk about that.
Well, after working on the house and running around the property, I have two questions. If anybody that sees this happens to know, in what would be the front lawn as you look out over the hill toward Ingleside, there's a concrete slab, probably 4x4, with studs coming out of it.
Really large stud.
Large studs. And we have a feeling that it may have held a statue of some sort back in the day,
Maybe a windmill.
maybe a windmill. And so we're curious if anybody might know or have a picture of what happened to be there. So that's number one. What was my other question?
The gardens. Water system.
Oh, well, I have been looking for an irrigation system. I believe, it's the greenhouse. I believe that there's an irrigation system somewhere there that exists, because I've seen lines that have been cut and thrown into the tree line. But I find lines and spigot heads in the garden. So at some point it existed. I just don't know where the terminal box is that I could start everything all over again. And then
The
in the
breakers for
basement of the house,
Big breakers.
there's a breaker that says greenhouse. And there's no greenhouse on the plans. We have the original plans. I'm curious if anybody knows, was there a greenhouse? And if there was, where was it located on the property? Because we might have electrical to that as well, that we could put a little greenhouse out there again.
And then on the side of the property, there's a sunken amphitheater that we've been told where they would run plays. So the Fisher family apparently would have actors or actresses come and do plays. And it's a little bit of a Roman setting. And the trees were overgrown, so when we had the tree company come in, we had them come in and take over where the center stage was. The trees had grown in there, and these weren't large trees; they were small. But you can see where you have a radius like a little auditorium. So we're in the process of reestablishing that as well, because we just think that it's. And the previous owner had gone down there and cut the grass around the center of where the trees had come out, but the hill is large enough where you couldn't, steep enough where you couldn't, you're not going to do a tractor for grass or something. But we've been working on trying to reestablish that, and there was a foundation, looks like a fire pit with some crumpled bricks. So we're trying to figure out what was there. So if there's anyone that knows about that, we would appreciate, or just any knowledge at all of anything.
Absolutely.
Buzzer system in the house. We have the buzzer system. Part of it was working. So in each of the rooms, you would push a button for the servants. With the Fisher family, we had 2 rooms that were for the servants' quarters and a bathroom. And in there, we'd push a button and it would pop up in their quarters as well as in the kitchen, the servants' kitchen.
Where they might need you, the game room
Yeah,
or
in each room, we would say game room, library, a dining room, bedroom, whatever. So each of the rooms have this little button. So we worked on that.
We made it a game one night when my family was here visiting, And I
Everybody
had
was in different rooms pushing buttons.
to see what would happen. We're missing one button. We found every button except one, and it's
Yeah.
labeled family room, and there really isn't a family room. There's a great room, but they called it a great room, so I'm not sure what
At the
they're
head of the
referring
table
to.
in the
Right.
dining room on the floor, there's a little button that you press and, so you don't have to get up and push it, so it's
It's
quite.
fascinating.
Oh,
Just
my.
Yeah,
fascinating.
and we just want to make sure, everything works, and, goes right back to the way it was.
Stan
so.
puts his little headlamp on and goes down in the basement and looks up at the floors to see if he can trace cables or
Yeah.
what have you.
And I personally was there yesterday on my hands and knees underneath the foundation with a lamp on, and I pulled out about 50 pieces of slate tile that's sorely needed for the roof. And they're original tiles, and then also some tiles from the bathroom. All the bathrooms, everything's original, and we have some now, the original tiles. And then there's old dead batteries, and there were some dry cell type of batteries, but it's just like, we go through and it's
just fascinating.
And spider webs, and it's like, and then one of these contractors there, and he's go, "What are you doing back there?" And I said, sure, I could hire somebody, but I want to know what's back there,
Sure,
I really do,
yeah.
because, I just want to have a good
Once
foundation.
you know, you can hire
Pam's like,
somebody.
did you find that wire we're looking for? And it's like, there's 800 wires here, So
Well, it has been an adventure, hasn't it?
it's
That's
fun.
for sure.
And then, like
For
Pam
sure,
says,
adventure.
by the end of the day, sometimes I'm just filthy. And she goes, "What were you doing? There's a lot of people out there to help you." And every time the people, it's like, "Let me do that for you." And it's like, "All right, I'm just looking,
Well, obviously, your dedication to detail and everything is just is to be admired, because you all are taking care of every single thing, trying to make it as it was.
We have list upon list upon list, so we're trying to make
I
sure
can
that we get to
imagine.
every detail.
Are you? I just now thought about this. The furnishings for the house. Are you all going to try to do anything back to that time
Well,
period?
your
or-
pictures have been very helpful. So, and McClung's pictures have been
Yes.
very helpful. So we were left a great deal of furniture. In looking everything over, I don't believe anything is original furniture. I think everything is subsequent, probably to the Ferrigno family.
Ferrignos, yes.
And forward, but nothing behind. Now, I do have two pieces that I may have Jacob, one of our neighbors, look at, because he does old furniture restoration,
Yeah.
to see if he can tell us if it's something that you might want here at the museum.
Because they have the same, some of the property, furniture that we looked at yours there, some of it's identical handles and even construction details. So, but when we looked at the pictures at least that we have, they're not the same pieces, but they're similar to what we have up here. So
Right.
maybe even Ann, when you come over to take a look at it, but,
Okay.
when you open the drawer, it's really interesting. There's just parts upon parts upon parts in bags, Ziploc bags that belong to different furniture pieces.
Maybe not even furniture that's there, just
Right.
bags of parts.
And then the one dresser that is similar to upstairs, one leg is kind of missing, so that when it's got some funky support in the bedroom, but you don't want to touch it because it'll lean on you all of a sudden. But then you start pulling the drawer out, and the handle comes off, and it's just like one of the ones upstairs. So, but to Pam's point is that some of the furniture, if we're going to get it reconstructed, even the bed in the downstairs bedroom, there's veneers on it that
Sure.
It's had a hard life.
and the mattress that somebody put on it does, it's an original bed from, decades ago.
Right.
The mattresses aren't the same size, but
Exactly.
this one's
So you
forced
sleep
in
on
there.
a cattywampus.
Yeah, I've got one like that.
Yeah, and the frame is about this far from where the mattress is on both sides, and it's just like, okay. So while there was furniture there, it's,
So
but
we're-
our furniture is getting a little different. So we have, a lot of European, a lot of French and English furniture. Would that be fair?
That's what makes me feel homier. So we're replacing things as we go along with things that we like better.
Good.
Yeah.
Good for you.
And then
Well,
everything that we've taken down, I should mention, we've taken down draperies, we've taken down rods, we've taken smaller pieces of knickknacks and that sort of thing. And we're saving all of those until we can determine how old it was.
Yeah.
If it's original to the house, we'll keep it in the attic so that at some point when we're not caring for it, if someone wants that back,
Anything original will
That's
be,
wonderful.
will be
we're
cleaned,
saving that.
cleaned and protected and placed in the attic. So even the fixture that, that you look at it and you say, well, that light isn't,
Yeah, I've got 2 fixtures down now that need rebeading. I'm gonna try and bead one evening when I'm free.
When we go to screw a light bulb in it, it has the original insulation on it, and it just crumbles, and then, you have 2 bare wires, and I'm like, that's safety. Safety. So one of the first things I did is fire extinguishers everywhere, fire
Smoke
alarms,
alarms.
smoke alarms everywhere, CO2 detectors, so that was the first project, is getting life safety.
Right.
But when you have a fixture that, when you touch it, the wires evaporate, so now we've taken those fixtures down, and they're in the closet. We're gonna have those rewired or whatever else, but, they're unsafe to even put a light bulb back in. Right?
Oh, and if you should happen to have in the viewership, someone who knows anything about silk wallpaper,
Yeah.
our dining room wallpaper has been damaged by a bathroom above it, and I'm thinking I'm taking it down. I'll save the pieces as pictures and put them around that room. But if I could replicate silk wallpaper from that period, that's what I would prefer to
bet.
do.
I have someone who might just be able to help you, so I'll try to get you in touch with that person. And as I said, I'm so thankful to you all for what you're doing and the investment you're making into our community and into our heritage and our history, because that house plays a significant part in our history here in Athens, as did the Fisher family. And it's just wonderful to know that you can move here and have that kind of commitment. And we just appreciate and thank you so very, very much. And
Well, thank you for having us.
Thanks for being so
Well,
welcoming.